Hello everyone, it's Helen at Journaling Planet. Just a quick tutorial today as I'm working in my magazine only glue book. As the title may suggest, this glue book is for magazine images only. I am, however, allowing myself to use media such as soft pastels or ink or paint, gesso and mediums such as gel matte medium. So I allow myself mark making tools, but the only images that I use are magazines. I have been hoarding this squirrel from a nature magazine, a really thick glossy one, for as long as I can remember. And all of the background images came from a gardening magazine that a friend gave me last autumn. So that has been sitting in my stash for a year. And when I saw it, I was like, well, luckily I have a glue book now that is magazine only. So I can get all of these autumn pieces that I'd harvested from that gardening magazine a year ago and put them in this layout. So my ambition with this spread was just to essentially celebrate the colours of autumn and to use up the magazine images that I'd harvested and to use this glorious image of a squirrel as the center point. So those were the things that I really wanted to achieve with this page. I started by just getting all the autumn colours I'd harvested and putting those in the background. I cut up the squirrel into two parts because it was going to go over the pages, and I just find it's easier to do that than have it kind of straddling the two pages. And then I got my glue stick out and literally started gluing down all of the autumn colours in the background. Although it's taken me a while to do this, a whole year in fact, it is a lovely time of year to be doing it because it is, of course, autumn again. And so the colours going into my magazine only glue book reflect the colours outside in the park where I walk the dog at the moment, and also in the local woodlands. So it is a rather nice project to be doing at this time of year. This is only my second layout in my magazine only glue book, and I have to say I've already been quite stunned at the versatility of magazine images and how I've managed to put them together in the page and make something that I'm really pleased with, really proud of. And I said this in my last video, it ended up looking a lot more like an art journal page than a glue book page. And that is not always going to be the case with these layouts. It just so happens that the first two kind of have that kind of leaning, but there will be other kinds of spreads that I do that are perhaps less artsy focused and more about simply cutting and gluing down the images. So anyone out there thinking that looks more like an art journal than a glue book, I hear you. It's just how things worked out with the first two spreads that I did. I guess that's just the way I was feeling the days that I did it. And that's fine, because the whole point of this journal is to see how far I can stretch magazine images, to see all the different things that I can do with them and how I can play with them on the page. So there'll be some that are definitely more art journal-y, that's the technical term, and there'll be some that are much more like your traditional glue book where you have got images simply glued down onto the page. I was struck by how lovely the background to this spread looked, simply because it was all autumn colours which complement each other very beautifully. I was really surprised by this, I suppose, in large part because they're all little scrappy bits of paper, so I wasn't really expecting them to kind of gel together so well. And yet the finished result, with a little bit of mark making, looks so wonderful. And I did think, even before I added any mark making, if I just left it like this, it would have looked cool anyway. It's just that I can't leave well enough alone. And once I get an idea in my head that I'm going to do some mark making, well, that's a lot of fun. And I just want to get in and do that. I think this project is a very good example of how nature blends together wonderful palettes for us all the time, and we don't need to go looking all the time for our own palettes to kind of reinvent the wheel. We can just look around us at the natural world, look at the palette that the season has created, take that palette and create something with it in our journals. That's definitely what I wanted to do with this spread. I wanted all those beautiful reds, oranges, some greens and yellows, because they look so beautiful together. We know this because every year autumn happens and we sort of slightly lose our minds about how beautiful it is outside. I suppose some people might think it's a little bit strange that I end up putting the word autumn on the spread twice. I start by having it in the left-hand corner, and then I add another piece in the bottom right-hand corner. And I wish I could tell you that this was some great artistic flourish, but it was really me just wanting to use up the words that I cut out of the magazine. I just felt that they've been sitting there long enough, and it was very much time to glue them down. And I was just really underlining the fact in this spread that it's autumn, in case you missed it with the squirrel and the colours and the fact that the word autumn was already on the page. I just wanted to underline yet again that that's what I was doing. So I ended up covering this spread with gel matte medium, which I love how matte it makes magazine images look. I don't per se dislike the gloss on magazines. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just I wanted to do some mark making and I thought a matte finish would look better. There will be other spreads where I do not use the gel matte medium because I want to experiment with the gloss look and see how that works with what I'm doing. But I must admit that matte is traditionally my favourite finish on paper. And so although gloss spreads will definitely appear in this glue book, I think that there'll be more matte layouts than gloss. It's just a preference. I just prefer to take the shine off it, and I'm always just so amazed at how gel matte medium does that. I then also went over it with a layer of clear gesso, which isn't in the video. I just think you've seen me apply the gel matte medium. You can probably imagine me applying the clear gesso. I don't think you need to watch that drying time, etc. I think we can move on. Once the gel matte medium and the clear gesso was dry, I then started going around outlining the squirrel with a soft pastel and smudging it in. And I used, unusually for me, a white chalk pastel because all of the colours around the squirrel were quite dark. So I figured white would be a better highlight in this instance than a dark colour. I then went in with some autumn coloured chalk pastels and activated them with gesso. I really love how this adds a sort of more painterly look to the spread, and it's one of my favourite things to do. To be honest, it just feels good. It has nothing really to do with what it lends in terms of artistic value. It's just a nice feeling to put chalk pastel across the page and blend it in with gesso. It's just a lovely, relaxing thing to do. And so that's what I do with several different colours. And I continue to blend that until I'm happy with it, until I feel sort of any very stark edges have kind of been blended in. And perhaps I go a little bit nuts with this actually because I do enjoy it a lot. So there's a lot of blending that happens. But hey, I enjoyed myself and I was happy with the finished result. And I think that's what really counts. I hope this video has been interesting and entertaining. If it has, please subscribe, hit the like button, and maybe even share it with a friend or leave a comment below. I always love to hear from people about what they're doing in their glue books or their art journals. And if you've used magazine images in some interesting ways, then I would certainly love to hear about it in the comments. I'm really hoping to push the boundaries of how I use magazine images in this particular glue book, and I would love your help in doing that. So please feel free to suggest things. I am all ears. But for now, happy crafting, and I'll see you next time.